9:15 here on the East Coast. Hope you're having a great Sunday morning. Even as crises in Ukraine and Gaza rage on, the president is sticking to his schedule. That includes a star-studded fundraising event in Hollywood. The White House defending his trip, saying, quote, abrupt changes to his schedule can have the unintended consequence of unduly alarming the American people or creating a false sense of crisis.
But shouldn't the downed Malaysian plane have been considered a bit of a crisis? And what messages is sending to our allies and also our enemies overseas? Let's talk to Fox News contributor Guy Benson. He joins us now. Good morning, Guy. We could go on and on a whole list of all these events important events in America, in which the president continued with his fundraisers, continued with his schedule from Benghazi. The very next day, he went to Las Vegas for a fundraiser, Crimea, when that happened, a DNC fundraiser, and we've got a whole list of them. What do you think is the message that it sends?
Well, Heather, look, I've said this on a few occasions. I think occasionally conservatives go overboard with their criticism of the president golfing or fundraising at inopportune times. But when you look at the totality of that list you're talking about, it really does paint a picture of presidential priorities. And I was sort of blown away on Thursday when this airliner gets blown out of the sky with hundreds of people dead. It was unclear how many Americans were dead, a huge escalation of this major international crisis in this war zone. And the president not only chose to continue the photo op he was at that exact moment of having lunch with a burger, he went on to give a very partisan speech a few minutes later and then to two fundraisers in New York that night. And this line that we're hearing from the White House that changing the schedule abruptly could be unnecessarily, I don't know, alarming to the American people. I think that we're intelligent and sophisticated enough here in America to understand that when a crisis happens, sometimes the president needs to react and a commander-in-chief has to do what he has to do, and we're not going to freak out about that.
Yeah, I think the American people would like to see their American president, on the job doing what he is supposed to do, and maybe telling the Russians to put their proxy army back in its box. That might be one of the suggestions.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple things, and I know that some of the president's defenders will make the argument, look, he's traveling, he's got all sorts of, equipment and communication systems where he can be working while he's in transit. It's not like he's totally ignoring these events. He can keep his schedule, but his public schedule is what not only the American people see, but what our international allies and adversaries see. And a president looking at what happened with the Gaza invasion and that big, horrible disaster over the skies of Ukraine, and he just continues on with his regularly scheduled programming, as far as his public schedule is concerned, that sends a message about, fairly or unfairly, I think it sends a message that this is an administration that maybe doesn't care or is just trying to shrug this off and being overly nonchalant, nonchalant to a fault.
Let's put this in context a little bit and look at the number of fundraisers that the president has participated in at this point in his administration compared to other presidents. You can see that right there. Bill Clinton, 638. George W. Bush, 328.
395
Obama,
for President Obama.
395. Washington Post had that. That's about 66 a year, 5.5 each month if you break it down. He's doing a lot more of this than the other presidents, and I guess the priority is trying to,
and optics, as you point out, optics are everything when it comes to the Oval Office and the most powerful position in the world. And if a jetliner gets blown out of the sky by a Russian missile, whether the Russians fired it or their proxy army fired it, it's a Russian missile that blew 300 innocent people out of the sky, and the president is having a burger?
Yeah, and going back to the fundraising numbers, I think it's completely fair to say that presidents of both parties, as you just outlined, part of their job is they're the head of their political party. They do fundraising. They rake in the cash for their, fellow members and try to help folks get reelected. I understand that. That's part of the job. But when the you-know-what hits the fan internationally, and there are a lot of people dead, you then have to become commander-in-chief. It's time to do the hard work, not the fun work of fundraising. That's the job this president applied for twice with the American people, the hard stuff.
All right, Guy Benson, thanks a lot. We'll have to leave it there. And some in the
My
left
pleasure.
starting to turn against the president on this, saying that he should really be on the job.
It does seem like it seems like there is, it's a serious crisis, and there's more that he could be doing, at least to send the message that the U.S. is taking this seriously, and we want to get to the bottom of it.
Certainly.
All right. You have kids.
I do.
You ever let them play outside by themselves?
Not so much, no. Mine are little, but...